Good morning, everyone. Ah, yes, now you know. My name is Robert Sellers, and I'm the Vice Provost for Equity and Inclusion, as well as the Chief Diversity Officer here at the University of Michigan. It is my great pleasure to welcome you to the 2018 University of Michigan Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Community Assembly. This event also serves as the official kickoff for our third annual Diversity Summit Week, or DS3. This morning's assembly provides an opportunity for us to come together and to take stock of the progress that we have made in our mission to become a more diverse, equitable, and inclusive place through the efforts of our DEI strategic plan. While this event marks the start of year 3 of the DEI strategic plan, it is always important for us to remember that these efforts are not the first that have gone forward here at the University of Michigan. In fact, the University of Michigan has a long history in leadership in higher education and broadening access to its very, very uncommon education to the larger common person. We must always remember that the progress that we have made to date with regards to the strategic plan and other efforts, and the progress that we will continue to make in the future with regards to our DEI plan, is only possible because of the efforts of many folks that have come before us. The events of this morning are a great opportunity for us to rededicate ourselves to the challenges that lie ahead as a way of thanking those who had made the commitment and hard work before us. We have a full and inspiring program this morning, and so without any further delay, I would like to get us underway. It is my honor to introduce our very first speaker. Regent Andrew C. Richner is the chair of the Board of Regents here at the University of Michigan. A Republican from Grosse Pointe Park, Regent Richner was originally elected to the Board of Regents in 2002 and re-elected in 2010. In addition to his regential duties and dedication, Regent Richner is a partner in the law firm Clark Hill PLC. He served 3 terms in the Michigan House of Representatives, 2 terms as a Wayne County Commissioner, and 1 term on the Grosse Pointe Park City Council. In addition, he was an intern in the Office of Counsel to the President in the White House under President Reagan. Regent Richner is a proud alum of the University of Michigan. He graduated with high distinctions from the U of M School of Business Administration in 1982. He then went on and graduated cum laude from the University of Michigan Law School in 1986. And while at the law school, he was a contributing editor to the Michigan Law Review. Maize and blue runs deep in the Richner family. Regent Richner and his wife Susan have a son and daughter, both of whom graduated from the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. Without any further ado, it is my great pleasure and honor to welcome to the stage Regent Andrew C. Richner.
Well, thank you, Rob, for that extended bio. My mother would be very proud. So welcome, everyone, and good morning on behalf of my colleagues on the Board of Regents. Creating a diverse environment has been a long-standing priority of the university. A diverse environment is essential to student education and the ability to succeed in an ever-changing world. As a board, we take seriously our duty to serve all the people of Michigan and society more broadly. The university applies a broad definition of diversity, including diversity with respect to race, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, gender, religion, veteran status, nationality, and diversity of thoughts and ideas. We all grow as students, staff, faculty, alumni, and citizens when we are exposed to people who might approach issues differently. Sometimes it causes us to rethink strongly held beliefs, but even if that doesn't happen, we benefit from civil exchanges and the acknowledgement of our shared humanity. The DEI Strategic Plans set forth by President Schlissel, Chief Diversity Officer Rob Sellers, and others on the leadership team encompasses the ethos of our great university. The board knows that implementation of the plan has involved a broad spectrum of voices and has engaged our campus community in critical inquiry of what we do and how we do it, all in pursuit of goals worthy of the university's highest aspirations. The board appreciates the hard work that you all have devoted to this effort. This is a multi-year and multi-generational endeavor. We look forward to watching this work progress into the future. In 2014, I had the privilege of participating in the presidential search, one of the board's primary responsibilities, indeed, probably its primary responsibility. We found a remarkable leader in Mark Schlissel. He said at the time of his hiring that academic excellence and diversity are inextricably linked. He also said, "I recognize that education in Michigan extends well beyond the classroom as members of our diverse community of teachers and students learn from one another. Therefore, I am committed to doing my best to make all members of our academic community feel welcomed and included." President Schlissel has worked tirelessly to make this happen. Today, this commitment to diversity in all of its forms is driving forward on multiple fronts. The many events happening across campus this week in conjunction with the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Summit illustrate how units large and small are encouraging in this important endeavor. I hope each of you will take time to participate in as many of these programs as possible. Now it is with great pleasure that I introduce to you the 14th President of the University of Michigan, President Mark Schlissel. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks, Regent Richner, for the kind introduction and for your remarks of support on behalf of the board. So, when we renewed our journey to enhance diversity, equity, and inclusion at the University of Michigan less than 4 years ago, we knew we had the power of an amazing community to propel us forward. It's a community of thousands, past and present, who share their intellect, their commitment to accountability, and their passion for a better university and a better society. They're student activists, scholars, alumni, staff, supporters, and friends. They're leaders and best, members of the Michigan family, who work tirelessly to ensure that we fully embrace the essential values of diversity, equity, and inclusion. I want to thank all of you for your devotion to these values and the fulfillment of our strategic plan. I also thank our special guests, Diane Guerrero and Leonard Pitts, for joining us this morning for this important discussion. Over the past year, I've been continually inspired by interactions with our students, faculty, and staff from many different parts of our university. I especially want to give a shout out to the DEI implementation leads whose work in units cross our entire campus. Their willingness to share their ideas and considerable energy with us, along with their honesty about what we should be doing better, is a big factor in the significant progress of our strategic plan. Thank you, DEI implementation leads. Let's give them a round of applause. Guided by our now 2-year-old plan, we're enhancing our academic excellence, improving our campus environment, and extending our impact nationwide. At the same time, we know that many challenges remain as we strive to ensure that the U of M is welcoming for all who live, work, and study here. These challenges will continue to drive our work in the months and years ahead. We also will rigorously evaluate our progress to ensure accountability with the goal of achieving the greatest possible impact for all members of our community. Both in the plan itself and in emerging grassroots efforts within our community, we're seeing true innovation. I know that Dr. Sellers and Dr. Wade Golden will be sharing some of the specifics of our Year 2 progress, but I want to mention a few highlights. This fall, the first graduates of our Wolverine Pathways program are now studying on our Ann Arbor and Dearborn campuses. More than 700 students are currently benefiting from this pipeline program for middle and high school students in Detroit, Southfield, and Ypsilanti. Students attend after-school, weekend, and summer academic enrichment sessions and receive mentorship and guidance as they prepare for their own futures. Young scholars who successfully complete the program, apply to U of M, and are admitted receive a 4-year full tuition scholarship plus any need-based aid that they qualify for in addition. Another innovative accomplishment is coming out of an important collaboration between our National Center for Institutional Diversity and our Office of Academic Innovation. NCID is a leader in supporting scholars who address important current issues related to diversity in society. By taking advantage of numerous areas of alignment between DEI and public engagement, NCID and the Academic Innovation Initiative are helping mobilize communities for social change. This collaboration is part of this week's summit with an event this afternoon at Palmer Commons that focuses on social transformation through public engagement. We're also on schedule to complete construction of our new Trotter Multicultural Center in February, with an opening event in April. Programming initiatives for New Trotter include an interfaith program to create opportunities and space for students examining life's deepest questions and seeking transformative impact. Additionally, a Trotter Distinguished Leaders series will increase healthy discourse and learning throughout U of M. I believe that respectful and productive conversations are an important component of our DEI efforts. One way we're working to encourage civil discourse is by creating activities that foster diversity of political thought. I was very impressed by our Ford School and by the We Listen student group at an event I attended a week ago Sunday. They brought together William Crystal, founder and editor of the Weekly Standard, and Neera Tandon, president and CEO of the Center for American Progress and former Obama administration official, for a discussion of important issues. The event launched the Ford School's Conversation Across Difference initiative, which is an important priority supported financially by our Provost office. Our work to create a safe, inclusive, and respectful culture for all is an important aspect of our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion initiative. Last month, we announced new measures to better prevent sexual misconduct and provide educational and support resources for our entire community. The connection of our work on sexual misconduct to DEI allows us to tap into the existing network across campus while also addressing an issue that's deeply tied to our goal to create a more equitable and inclusive community. We can also benefit from the fact that DEI has already enhanced our culture of reporting and accountability. We all share responsibility for working to end sexual misconduct. Sexual misconduct has no place at the University of Michigan, and retaliation against those who report misconduct won't be tolerated. This is a belief shared by our regents, executive officers, and leaders all across our community. We recently created a centralized website devoted to sexual misconduct reporting, prevention, and education. And later this fall, we'll launch a comprehensive sexual misconduct training and education program that will be required for all faculty and staff. The working group that helped to develop these actions included faculty and staff experts on sexual misconduct from all 3 of our campuses, as well as Michigan Medicine. It was chaired by Dan Little, former Chancellor of UM Dearborn, and Loretta Thomas, Associate Vice President for Human Resources. You'll be hearing more about our work in the weeks and months ahead. My remarks this morning have highlighted just a few of the many ways that the U of M family has joined together in the name of diversity, equity, and inclusion. We're breaking down walls and collaborating across units in service of a better university. We still face many challenges in that many members of our community do not experience the University of Michigan as positively as we would all like, but we can find hope in the depth with which we have engaged. In units, in schools, and colleges, DEI is not an added tangent, it's a value we embrace. That's the result of your dedication and advocacy for our highest ideals. We cannot be excellent without being diverse in the broadest sense of the word. And we must ensure that our community provides all individuals with an equal opportunity to contribute, to be heard, and to succeed. These values are essential to all of our aspirations as the University of Michigan. Thank you all very much. It's my pleasure to introduce my friend and colleague, University Provost Martin Philbert.
Thank you, President Schlissel. I'm glad to be with you all this morning. As President Schlissel has indicated, our work on diversity, equity, and inclusion is leading to progress across campus. While this progress is attributable to many things, I think the common underlying thread is our willingness to learn from each other. Our purpose as a community is to learn. We seek to expand our knowledge as individuals and the knowledge that is available to the world. We are indebted to research by our faculty that has shown for some time now that high-quality education and research require consideration of an array of perspectives. When we draw on the ideas and experiences of others, our own thinking is pushed into new and different directions. The key to solving the complex problems that we confront in every area of academic study and in the challenges that face society. An important part of our diversity, equity, and inclusion activities is developing our ability to be open to and respectful of ideas and perspectives of others, and to learn from them. Over the past year, there have been several activities that have helped faculty deepen their skills in inclusive teaching. This enables them to help students learn from the diverse ideas and experiences of their classmates. In 2017 and 2018, faculty and graduate student instructors were invited to 23 seminars focused on aspects of inclusive teaching. This represents a 64% increase over the previous academic year, an increase driven by demand from faculty. Additional activities included a series of plenary sessions on inclusive teaching for GSIs and undergraduate instruction aides, and new this fall a GSI learning community on race, ethnicity, pedagogy. A lasting benefit of this focus on teaching is that students carry it with them when they graduate and move on. Participating in classes and other activities that are inclusive, respectful, and diverse enables them to develop skills in listening to others and in incorporating new ideas and information into their own understanding. As these skills become ingrained, students take them beyond the classroom, beyond the work done for specific courses. They become the habits of mind that individuals employ in their roles in civic society. As President Schlissel mentioned, one of the student initiatives underway this year is focused on moving the habits learned in inclusive classrooms into the larger sphere of civic discourse. The Conversations Across Difference initiative is designed to provide a place where different point of views on public concerns can be shared, examined, and challenged respectfully. We live in tumultuous times. Our society is marked by deep divisions. There are individuals and groups who seek to intimidate those with whom they disagree or do not respect. We have seen this here when, in successive years, threatening messages have been painted on the rock at Hill and Washtenaw. It is our responsibility as a community dedicated to learning to respond to acts like this with a renewed commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. The work before us continues to be challenging. Change is hard on the individual level and the societal level. The many activities underway as part of our Diversity Strategic Plan are a testament to our dedication to making changes that will lead to a better society, one that values each of us and welcomes all of us. And now it is my pleasure to invite Vice President Sellers back to the stage.
Hello, everyone. It is my great honor to walk you through some of just a very, very small piece of what has happened in the last 2 years with regards to our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion initiative. So I recognize that probably a quarter, if not a third of us weren't actually here at the beginning of the planning process. That's the nature of the university community. So I'm going to give you a very, very, very brief overview. We have not a single plan, but actually 52 different plans. There's a university level plan, which is similar to what most universities have. But of course, because we're Michigan, we couldn't stop there. We actually also have 51 unit level plans. And those 51 unit level plans were based on the idea that experiencing the University of Michigan looks very different if you're in the School of Nursing versus the College of Engineering versus part of the transportation staff. And so we wanted to have plans that represented that diversity of experiences at the university. Each of the plans addressed issues related to climate, issues related to diversifying our community, as well as issues related to our scholarship and teaching. We wanted to make sure that our plans recognize the fact that we have historically been doing this work, so we provided support for foundational programs that were already here, as well as develop new infrastructure to help organize and make our plans most efficient and most effective. And last but not least, we wanted to make sure that we took an approach that was empirically based, that allowed us to measure our success as well as areas that we need to improve. And the last piece was to be as visible as possible in terms of reporting the findings for the plan. Just so you know, there are 37 central university action items that were proposed for the first 2 years of the plan, and over 2,100 action items that were proposed across the 51 unit plans. And I plan to go through each and every one through great deep, well, no, actually. Of those 37 central plan items, all 100 have been engaged, including 95% being implemented already. 92% of the more than 2,100 unit level plans have been activated, with 56% of those having been fully implemented. Our DEI goals, as I mentioned earlier, we have 3 specific ones. One is to recruit, retain, and develop a diverse community of students, staff, and faculty, which I think of as our people goal. The second goal is to promote a more equitable and inclusive climate, which is really to improve the processes by which we interact. And the third is to infuse diversity, equity, and inclusion into our teaching, scholarship, and service activities. In other words, the main products of the University of Michigan. So today, instead of going through every single initiative, I'm going to go through each of the major goals and just highlight one specific initiative. So with regards to our people initiative, our recruitment, retaining, and developing a more diverse community, we have a number of programs that have been put in place, including our Native American student initiative out of the Office of Admissions, efforts to recruit faculty with commitments to diversity, equity, and inclusion, for example, the LS&A Collegiate Fellowships Program. But the program that I'm going to highlight today is the Wolverine Pathways program that President Schlissel had mentioned earlier. And just to give you a sense of who our wonderful Wolverine Pathways students are.
For students who haven't heard about Wolverine Pathways, I would definitely tell them to reach out, come, apply. Definitely, it is an amazing opportunity.
I am a very fortunate parent. I have 2 children in the program. I have an 8th grader and a 10th grader. It has provided them with social awareness, what they need to do to be college ready.
They not only work with you on, your schoolwork that you have and, your own personal school, but they also teach you about, what it means to be a college student.
Wolverine Pathways has definitely changed the way I look at college. Like the higher ranked ones, like U of M and Arbor, I used to think that those were untouchable until now this program has actually made me realize that I can achieve it and I can even go and actually prepare to attend there. It does take practice, but they've definitely helped us on the discipline aspect, taking practice SAT tests and giving us opportunities to even take it once for free. So yes, apply, 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 and greater is always in store, so thank you.
Do we have any Wolverine Pathway students here? See, they're doing exactly what we want them to do. They're in class right now. As President Schlissel had mentioned, we have 733 Wolverine Pathway scholars currently enrolled. This year was the first year that they were eligible to come to the University of Michigan. So our first graduating class this past spring consisted of 88 Wolverine Pathway scholars. 80 of that 88, or 91% of those, are currently enrolled in a 4-year university. 45 of our Wolverine Pathway scholars are currently enrolled here at the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. 15 more are at U of M Dearborn. So we have 68% of that first class here at the University of Michigan. Next, I want to talk about our second goal, which is to promote an inclusive and equitable climate. In other words, our product. And I want to focus on a lot of the efforts that we've done with regards to our DEI skill training for staff. And we will have Sonia Jacobs to talk a little bit about what that effort has looked like.
The DE&I initiative includes education and training resources. Those resources are provided out of the university HR in partnership with several entities across the university. The idea is to provide educational resources that help to improve the climate for diversity, equity, and inclusion, as well as provide resources that are accessible to all faculty, staff, and units here on the campus. Our efforts will help us create an institution that's more innovative, dynamic, and inclusive for everyone. Our diversity and equity resources will also help us to build the capacity for everyone across the university, and enables us to partner with various units and schools to deliver diversity, education, and training. My hope is that each person who participates in our education and training resources will not only build skill, but they will also see a change in behavior and be much more aware of who we are, what we all bring, and create an environment that will foster some dialogue, healthy communications, and will enable us to really contribute to the mission of the university.
So this extensive investment is working in terms of gaining penetration throughout the university. So our Office of Organizational Learning has provided both unit-based as well as general DEI professional development opportunities across 10 different curricula, including curricula on disability awareness, Change It Up, bystander interventions, unconscious bias processes. We've had over 702 courses offered, with more than 17,000 participants in these courses. And these courses have touched 100% of the 51 administrative and academic units that make up the DEI Strategic Plan. Our third goal focuses on the products, the things that we as an institution of higher education are all about. Learning, scholarship, service to the larger public mission. And I want to talk a little bit today about the work that our Center for Research on Learning and Teaching has done with regards to providing professional development opportunities for our teachers, our faculty, our GSIs, our lecturers in the classroom with respect to inclusive teaching.
At CRLT, our mission is to partner with faculty and graduate student instructors and academic administrators to advance a teaching culture in which instructors and students of all backgrounds can succeed and excel. And so diversity and inclusive teaching has for a long time been central to our mission. The DE&I strategic planning process has enabled us to think as a whole team about how we can deepen our connections on campus around this topic and widen our reach.
What we're working to accomplish with our DE&I work is to help instructors across the disciplines increase their understanding of and skill with inclusive teaching. This includes understanding better who the students are in their classrooms and labs. It includes deliberately cultivating learning environments where students with really different backgrounds and perspectives can learn from one another and productively engage. And it includes, importantly, understanding and alleviating patterns of inequity that are often associated with student identities and can become barriers to learning.
So here are some ways that our diversity strategic planning process has really expanded our work here at CRLT and CRLT in engineering. First of all, we've always worked with schools and colleges, but now we have a Liaisons for Inclusive Teaching group, which represents leadership from all 19 schools and colleges, that we collaborate to think strategically about diversity, equity, and inclusion. We've always had seminars, but now we have a 2-week session on the inclusive teaching at Michigan series held in May, which really provides a range of opportunities for instructors. We've always had consultations, but now we have a hotline where instructors can contact us when there's an emerging concern.
So our inclusive classroom teaching program, CRLT has worked with 10 schools and colleges to include inclusive teaching professional development opportunities on the onboarding of new faculty. They have also offered separate standalone workshops that are open to all faculty and GSIs, as well as delivered customized workshops and retreats to schools and colleges and departments specific to their particular needs. I'm happy to report that more than 1,100 GSIs and undergraduate instructor aides have also attended a continuing series on inclusive teaching at the all-campus and CEO GSI teaching orientation. So the work that we're doing to make the classroom a much improved, a much more effective space for all students is having, again, great traction within the university. Now I want to talk a little bit about, first, what's happening in the upcoming year, and then about our progress. So as President Schlissel had mentioned, we are incorporating the sexual misconduct prevention campaign within the structure of DEI. There can be no better structure and a better fit than the goals of the sexual misconduct prevention campaign and the efforts that have already been undertaken with regards to diversity, equity, and inclusion. In both cases, we are trying to build a community to change the way in which we think, act, and treat each other. And in that, there is absolutely no place whatsoever for sexual harassment and gender harassment. We're also spending a great deal of our effort in this next year with an external evaluation of the DEI strategic planning process itself. We will be bringing in experts from around the country to evaluate the processes that we're undertaking. And last but not least, we are also involved in an internal assessment with regards to the progress at our unit level plan initiatives. So our DEI leads will be working to look at the initiatives that have been most effective and finding ways to double down and to scale up, and also looking for those things that have perhaps not been as effective and sunset so that we have the space, opportunity, and resources to bet on our winners. It is my great pleasure to lead this particular initiative. And from my particular space, I get an opportunity to see some things that most of us don't. One of the things that I can tell you from the bottom of my heart is that we still have a long way to go. But I can also tell you we have also made a great deal of progress in the past 3 years. We are not the same institution that we were when we started. We are a more diverse, equitable, and inclusive community, and we will continue to work to be even more so. We will make sure that we continue to have programs like this to raise institutional awareness with regards to the DEI. We want to make sure that we have more initiatives that broaden access not only into the institution but throughout the institution. So we have programs that are focused specifically on professional development for staff and faculty who have a demonstrated commitment to diversity, as well as programs that provide staff opportunities in trades and other spaces that we otherwise wouldn't have had in the past. We are working very hard to build the skill level of each and every one of us. Being able to interact effectively, respectfully, and in a way that brings us all forward across our differences is not something that comes naturally. It is something that is a skill that needs to be practiced and developed, and we're continuing to find ways to do that. We're also making sure that we integrate DEI in our institutional processes and structures, including our annual review processes for staff, faculty, as well as in our budget process itself. And last but not least, we've included institutional norm reinforcers through things such as diversity, equity, and inclusion award programs for faculty and staff, as well as, again, programs like this where you have messages from the Board of Regents, the President, and the Provost reinforcing the importance of DEI. I can tell you the work that we've done has gone noticed throughout higher education. Many of my colleagues often ask, what are we doing and why are we so successful, and wondering how they can also engage in a similar process. This recognition is also occurring in terms of the media, believe it or not. I want to congratulate our DEI leads in particular for this particular award. The University of Michigan has just received the 2018 Higher Education and Excellence in Diversity Award from Insight to Diversity magazine. Give yourselves a hand for that particular effort. And now I want to move us along in today's program. It is my great honor to introduce the Deputy Chief Diversity Officer, Katrina Wade-Golden, who in many ways is the secret sauce in all of the hard work that we've done. And she will move us forward in the program. Thank you very much. Oh, one more thing. Please recognize that what we've talked about today is a very, 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 one more very small sliver of all the wonderful work that's done. Please, I invite you and encourage you to read the report, which provides a larger sliver of all the great work that you have done. Thank you.
Good morning, Michigan. So thank you, Rob, for those warm comments and, more importantly, your incredible leadership and partnership in this work. Also, I want to extend a special thank you to our talented and committed team within the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, and the nearly 100 DEI leads all across campus who bring all of our work to life. Thank you so much. So I'm delighted to have so many of you out today to help us celebrate the progress we've made in year 2 of the strategic plan, and to help us kick off to another productive and inspiring year, year 3, as it relates to the plan. So it's time to introduce our featured event. So we are thrilled to have as our keynote speaker, Diane Guerrero. Diane Guerrero is an award-winning actress who has starred in shows like Orange is the New Black, for which she received 3 Screen Actors Guild Awards, and as Lena in CW's breakout hit, Jane the Virgin. Guerrero's memoir, In the Country We Love, wonderful read, by the way, I read it in like 2 days, published by Henry Holt, details her life as a citizen daughter of undocumented parents and her years-long struggle to deal with the consequences of the broken immigration system. In 2015, Guerrero was named a White House Ambassador for Citizenship and Naturalization. She is an outspoken advocate for common sense, comprehensive immigration reform who promotes voter and civic engagement while drawing attention to the experiences of undocumented families in the United States and the impact of deportation. Moderating the discussion, we have with us Leonard Pitts, who is an award-winning journalist who writes about diversity and current affairs in his own column. Pitts was a finalist for the Pulitzer Prize in 1992 and a winner in 2004. In addition to a very long list of honors, which you can read in your program, in 2016, Pitts was named to the Hall of Fame by the National Society of Newspaper Columnists, which gave him the Ernie Pyle Lifetime Achievement Award. So please join me in welcoming Diane Guerrero and Leonard Pitts Jr., to the University of Michigan, and to our community assembly.
Well, I guess it's on us now.
Yes.
Okay. Showtime.
Hello.
It's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to meet you. I want to begin, and let me also co-sign your book. I'll do the TV spokesmodel thing.
Thank you.
Yeah. You know, I think you're going to be signing afterwards. Is that
I'll
right?
be signing afterwards.
Okay.
I'll be there to talk to.
Always got to do that.
To talk to me.
If you could tell us a little bit about your story. You grew up in Boston, as I recall from the book.
Yes.
And you were the child of, obviously, parent born in Colombia who came here as undocumented persons. You could talk a little bit about that.
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here. Going to talk to people about my immigrant experience is sort of part of my gig. I started in 2016 after I decided to be open about my family's experience with the immigration system. I was born in New Jersey to my father and my mother, who were immigrants. My parents came in through a tourist visa, and like many other immigrants who came in that way, overstayed their visa, and then tried very hard to find a legal pathway for citizenship. As you know, it is very difficult. So my parents were undocumented, and I grew up pretty much in fear that they would be taken away, naturally. My parents were very open with me about the possibility of that, just because there was always conversation about their legal status at home. So it's a common misconception that people who come here and do not have legal papers do not worry about their status. They very much do, and are constantly trying to find ways that they can legalize their status. So it was a topic of conversation, and I was a little girl, and I was always sort of privy to what was going on. And so I knew from a very young age that my parents were undocumented, and that was something that I sort of had to carry with me. And I also knew that I had the privilege of being an American citizen because I was born here. I was raised in Boston, Massachusetts, and we lived a normal life for the most part. I grew up in a very predominantly Black and Latino community where a lot of immigrants were living in the area. So we didn't have a lot of family. My parents and I didn't have family in Boston, but like many immigrant communities, you band together and you make a family of of the people around you. So I grew up in that environment. I was always interested in the arts, and so that was part of my my journey growing up, and I certainly value the arts because it was, for me, a place that I could escape, a place that I could be myself, a place that I could be creative, away from sort of the very adult stuff that was happening at home. I was able to sort of be a kid through the arts.
You mentioned fear a moment ago, and I'd like to see if I get you to expand on that. How does that manifest itself? In other words, I seem to remember you making the point in the book at some point that your parents lived in fear of even something like a traffic stop or things like that. So how did that fear manifest itself in their lives and in yours? Were there just things you didn't do, or authorities or systems you tried to stay away from?
We basically were taught to stay quiet and basically to fear literally everything. So a knock on the door, loud noises would scare me. So like an alarm or a simple traffic stop violation, like anything that would put my parents in the face of authority. And of course I feared being taken away from them. And so that was our reality, because you are not, if you don't have documents, then and there are no laws to protect you, then you sort of run that fear. This caused for a lot of psychological harm, I suppose. I developed anxiety at a very young age. I mean, obviously my parents were anxious all the time, and so that transferred over to me. A lot of kids of mixed status families are, some family members are documented and some families are not. And so a lot of kids who grow up in that environment usually end up having mental health issues, and certainly I was not a stranger to that.
Your family was also rife for exploitation by bosses, and if I recall correctly, by also an immigration lawyer?
Yeah, so in the quest to obtain legal citizenship or even protected status, you run into lawyers who say they will help you by helping you fill out papers and sending documents in. But in a community that is already very fearful, you can run into some trouble. So there were lawyers that were faulty and would take your money. There were notarios that would scam you. And unfortunately, I experienced that with my family. We had a lawyer that was helping us for a long time. And it ended up being a very bad situation, because basically there are no, like I said, there are no laws to protect you. So this man just ran off with our savings, and we were sort of left in the same place we started. So, I mean, those were a lot of things that I experienced with my family. A lot of it, a lot of this fear sort of didn't motivate my parents to sort of, to be a little more, it was difficult. We weren't really talking about the immigration system and how it was failing this country and how it really wasn't working for anyone. We didn't talk about the visa system and how outdated it was, and sort of how difficult it was for family reunification. Those things, I mean, we were saying that they were available, but they were not.
Could you talk a little about, as I recall again from your book, that there was a traumatic day that changed everything when I think you were about 14, if I recall correctly?
Yes.
Can you talk about that day?
Sure. So I was, this was right around the lawyer situation. I was 14, and we had reached a time where my father had obtained a green card, and he had an employment card. And so we thought that things were sort of going well, but because this lawyer, you're responsible for submitting paperwork, and if you know the immigration system, you know that it's very complicated. So one document that you don't send in, or you miss a signature, or you miss a meeting, that can alter your entire process. And so I was in school at the time. I went to an performing arts high school, and I went home, and both my parents were gone. And so the neighbor came and told me that they were taken away by immigration. And so I was by myself. And so at this moment, I had to act quickly and see what I was going to do. I had it very clear in my mind that I was an American citizen, and that I was going to do everything in my power to stay here and to work here and to continue school here, because I was very much an American and felt like I needed to do that. I had to do that because in order to help my family. So we had nothing in Colombia. So I knew that my mission had to start then and there. So I called family, friends, and I was fortunate enough to have a community that respected my family, that respected me and our struggle, and took me in when I needed it most. And I was able to stay in school, and I talked to my teachers and my principal at my performing arts high school, Boston Arts Academy, and they were on board, and they helped me throughout that entire time. They helped me with counseling, and they helped me apply to college, and they, of course, sheltered me from so many things that could have happened to a kid who was left by themselves, especially at 14. So I had to know what it was to live without my parents from a very young age.
Now, that part of the book kind of stunned me. Was it that immigration didn't know that they were leaving you, a 14-year-old girl, suddenly all by herself? Did they not know that there was a Diane, or did they just not care? Or do you even know at this point?
I don't know, and I feel I waited around because this was sort of, my parents said, wait around because you never know, maybe someone is going to come to take you, or I also didn't want to have an experience where I was in school and authorities would come and take me. I thought maybe I would be arrested, or I would be sent away to a foster home or something. So I waited, but no one ever came, no one ever checked up, no one ever called my school or anywhere I was to see if I was okay, or if I needed to be with my parents or not. So I was sort of just forgotten. It was as if I really didn't exist in the eyes of the law, even though I was born here and I was here. But it was like sort of like their mission was done. It was they took my parents and that was it. They really didn't check up on me. So that's when my friend came in and got me.
Can you talk a little bit about the emotional toll that this took on you, your emotional health?
Sure. I mean, being separated from your family is a huge deal. It's not something that you just experience on the day or even a few months later or a year later. It's really a lifetime of trauma that occurs to a person. I mean, I've had to work very hard to be here today because of my experiences. I don't wish I mean, obviously I wish my parents would have stayed with me and we didn't have to go through this, because then life would have been a little easier and less emotionally traumatic. But it does mess with your psyche to know that that your parents are somewhere else very far away and you can't be with them. Yes, I get a lot of people saying, well, why didn't you go with your parents? Why didn't you just go back? Well, then I answer, well, go back to what? Go back to where? I've never visited Colombia. I didn't consider myself, I consider myself an American. And so there were no educational opportunities there for me unless you had a lot of money. There weren't any, there wasn't public education that was available for me. You need a lot of money there to go to a proper school and to succeed in the way that I wanted to. And I knew that if I stuck in the school that I was in the pilot school that I was in, that I would have a chance at college and that I would have a chance at a career. And so that's why I didn't go, because I also had to get to work so that I could send money home, well, to my parents' home, so that I could help them. And of course, as a 14-year-old, having all of these worries in your mind are going to take a toll. And so I experienced depression, anxiety, and I experienced a very hard time in my life where I thought that your self-esteem sort of is shattered. So you think you don't matter to your country, you don't matter to you start thinking you don't matter to your parents or your family. You start thinking that you don't matter, that you don't have a place in the world, that you don't belong here. So if your parents don't belong here and you really don't belong here, and really government has no idea that you're here, you start thinking, well, then what is the point of being here, meaning on this earth? So I had issues from the time I left high school into, what people call the real world. I guess that's not the real world yet. I guess after college is the real world. But so during college, which was a very real time for me because it was something very new that I had never experienced. And then of course after college was very tough until I got proper help. And again, mental health really wasn't discussed. It wasn't something that my community thought, or it wasn't something that my community really promoted. That mental health was necessary for you to succeed, that you needed mental health in order to get to the next step in your life. And no one's telling you that all of this bubbling up is going to catch up to you. I mean, I was voted most bubbly or happy-go-lucky in school, which is really funny because I was so sad. But that's why I'm an actress, I guess. So I was certainly trying to cover up those feelings of insecurity and nothingness, I guess. So I was very active. I mean, look, as a kid, I've always been that way. I've always tried to make a negative situation into a positive one. So, and I've done that by participation and by reaching out to my community, which is why I tell people all the time, it's like, don't be afraid to reach out, because if you want to live in a place where you know that if you're in trouble that you can reach out to your neighbors and ask for help and that they can do the same, then, I mean, it's the only way that we can succeed. None of us would be here if we weren't helped by someone. I mean, sure, look, you work really, really hard to be here, and that is you. You have that will. But your community is there to help you. And that's what I did when things got really bad. I sought help. And it's the only reason I'm alive today is because I went and I saw a therapist, and I did something about it.
If your parents had wanted to come here legally, what would the process have been and how long would it have taken?
Visas to countries like my parents usually take up to 15 to 20 years to 25 years to get a visa. You can get an employment visa, which is usually offered to more of like scientific jobs or medical jobs and things like that. But we have that here. Actually, the most what this economy depends on is more low-skilled work, which is why you see so many people from other countries coming here and working low-skilled jobs, is because in reality, we actually need more of that. I mean, just think about the food on your plates. The second way you can come here is through family reunification, which often doesn't, it's very limited to the number of family members.
Right.
And of course now with this administration, that's even less. But that's also very hard. And then the third is through, third and fourth is through asylum and refugees, which as you see now with the children at the border, that's also sort of non-existent. Because that also isn't really a way to come here.
So if you decide,
basically can't come.
Yeah.
You cannot come.
I was going to say that if you decide you want to have a better life and get a visa and go to America and have a better life, you better make that decision by the time you're 5, 6 years old.
You have to, yeah. You have to start at 5, submit your paperwork.
Yeah.
Get yourself a real good lawyer. And be prepared to speak to a judge when you're caught at the border or something. Yeah, it's not as easy as you would think. And of course, for countries, you cannot come here like like let's say you're impoverished. That is not reason for to be a refugee. But you have people from El Salvador running away from their dire situation over there, which has become very violent, and of course Syrian refugees, and that that is no longer a thing. You can't come here as a refugee. So those are the ways, and so my parents came on tourist visas.
Okay. You mentioned the present administration. If you could talk a little bit about this current anti-immigrant fervor that we're going through in this country, and how that when you hear the kinds of things that are being said, how that sounds particularly to you as the American-born child of children of parents who were,
Sure. Well, that was really the reason why I even decided to share my story, was because in 2015 I began to hear this current administration sort of, I guess what their campaign strategy, I suppose, was to attack communities that were different from them, but especially the immigrant community. So I wasn't involved in politics. I didn't even want to think about the word immigration because it caused me so much anxiety and so much pain. So I really wasn't, I wasn't thinking that I was going to do this. But in 2015, I heard a lot of the commentary and saying my community were rapists and murderers and that were coming here to steal jobs. And so knowing that I came from a community, this same community that was being referred to in this way, I thought this isn't right, because I know the community that I come from. My community is hardworking, my community is loving. And also, you're talking about my parents, and they are none of those things. And so I decided, because of the platform that I had at the moment, because I had managed to get myself a job on television, and that television show managed to be popular, and I was being seen for the first time in a way that I had never been seen. So I was being asked questions about who I was, what I believed in, who my parents were. And so I began sort of like I always had. I started to lie about myself and say that I was happy and that my parents were not here, but not because of reasons like deportation, but because they decided to just leave on their own. And I felt really wrong about that, knowing that my community was being attacked, knowing that deportations were at an all-time high, knowing that family separation is a very serious thing and is lifelong damaging. So I decided that I would share my story. And so you see this go on Twitter, right? You see the negative comments that are being thrown around about the immigrant community. You see children at the border held in cages. Just a few hundred children were actually just transported to Reno, Texas, with no educational opportunities and no legal representation. And so you see that there's this anti-immigrant fervor just through that. Just through seeing, I'm sure you've seen the images of children being ripped away from their parents, and then even that reunification process, after they deport the parents, these kids are still in these camps, in these cages. And so how do they get back together with their parents? It is something that the administration simply does not care about.
Okay, I get the sense you see yourself in
Sure, absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. I mean, look, when I saw those images, when I heard those screams, I just remember my experience seeing my parents being taken away in handcuffs and seeing my mom actually being taken away in this van to the airport, and remember her face in the little, through the little caged window. So those, when I see those children, I understand. And it's not like every kid who has been separated from their family has the luck that I've had. I'm one in a million, really. I don't even know how I got here, but I know that I was resourceful. I had a great community, but I mean, any wrong turn and I could have been in jail. I could have been in the streets. I could have been dead. So this isn't a normal case. This isn't something everyone experiences. Right. So I think that's why I have been so interested in sharing my story of, first, I was able to get through this, so I want to serve as encouragement and as an example for people going through the same thing, for thinking that they don't belong here or feeling like they don't matter. And then I also want to set an example for people who feel like I don't belong here and that I don't matter, to say that I do matter and that I am a hard worker and I am civically engaged and I do care about this country. And these are most of my peers.
Okay.
Like I said, I don't know how to stop a sentence.
That's okay. That's
Make sure your teachers teach you that. Your professors, I mean, teach you that.
The University of Michigan is unique among higher education institutions for having sort of this 5-year diversity, equity, and inclusion strategic plan, and we're sort of meeting here at the midpoint in year 3 or beginning year 3.
Yes.
How do you stay motivated, and give us some advice, give the university some advice for staying motivated in the long game of diversity work? You know, what are the things that we can do? It's so easy to look at what's right in front of you,
right.
But there's sort of a long-term strategic thing here, and it's maybe hard to stay motivated.
Well, it's hard to stay motivated just doing anything,
yeah.
Right? But just know that we are looking at a long-term fix, and it's important just to know that it takes work. It just takes work. Nothing comes easy. And that's sort of how I feel when we hit roadblocks. I mean, we saw right now that with what happened in Washington just a couple days ago, that this fight is intense. That we cannot simply back down because we keep seeing roadblocks, and we are stopped from wanting to see change. Change doesn't come easy, so I recommend that whoever is championing this to keep on doing what they're doing, and for others to get on board. And you need help, right? Just like we need help right now, and we've seen that we can't just leave it up to other people to decide for us. We can't just leave it to other people to do the work for us. We are part of this community, and therefore we have a responsibility to do this work. That's how I feel right now with upcoming elections, and I mean we have this history in this country of only a certain amount of people voting, and young people especially kind of leaving it up to the adults. But it's really our future that we need to think about. So we need to be participating as much as other people are who have been voting for a very long time.
I had so much more I could go to, but I happen to see a sign out there that
There's
says,
a sign? We're
time.
done? Have we talked about everything we were supposed to talk about?
Oh, 15. Oh, okay, good. We got a little.
We have 15 minutes?
We have 15 minutes.
Okay.
Let's go.
Let's do it. Where do I begin?
We have some questions from social media here. Your ability, this is from Hannah Hebner. Your ability to give voice to silenced stories is so powerful. Who do you still wish you could portray or interview? Whose story do you wish could be told, and who inspires you?
Oh my goodness, that's a loaded question.
Yeah, I know. There goes our 15 minutes.
I know, right? Well, I began by just wanting to be seen and wanting others who look like me to see themselves in me, and for others to know that I exist. And so I started with that by just, I wanted to play the dead girl, who was being I just wanted to be out there. And so obviously that focus has changed to telling stories that aren't really heard. You know, every year I think that I won't get the opportunity to actually tell stories that I want to tell, and then every year I get an opportunity to do so. I want to create my own content. I'm working on telling a story of just like a girl like me. I don't think we've seen that. So I'll start there. A year ago, I didn't think I would ever play a superhero, but I'm actually playing one right now. So that happened.
Which superhero is that?
Yeah. Well, thank you. Well, she's obviously like mentally unstable. That's neither here nor there. But it's a new series called Doom Patrol that's being shot in Atlanta. Doom Patrol was a DC universe, DC Comics that started, I think, in the 60s, and so it's making its way back. And so I'm playing a character called Crazy Jane. Go figure. But I welcome it. I welcome it because I want to talk about mental health. I want to talk about also being a superhero, even when you have all these difficulties that you have to overcome. So, but I mean, I want to play everything. I mean, I want to play an elf because I think I fit the bill. And I just want to continue telling American stories. And I think that my story is very American, and I want to have a chance to tell it.
Okay, also from, let's see, from A.J. Ashman. How do we go about bringing new voices into a movement/community, especially in college, when the day-to-day rush can drown out everything else? What lessons from activism outside of colleges can we bring to college to continually expand the number of people engaging?
Listen, use your voice. Tell stories, write. Write. I think that's what I've learned just being in this industry and actually thinking back on my college experience. And you know, there were us who felt silenced or not motivated. I think right now we have a very special opportunity that, yes, we have a lot of information that we're getting on a daily basis, but I think that there are a lot more people in this fight, in the fight to be included, in the fight to be recognized as a human being that should be respected, that should be heard, that should be considered. And so whatever your plight is, whatever you want to see, just do it. Just start writing. Just start right here. First of all, you being here as educators and as students is already revolutionary, is already a great thing. You're already in a really good place. And so, thank you. And so I think from here, you just have to reach out. You just have to look and see who else is doing that, who else is doing what you want to do, who else has a message that you want to amplify. Join forces. Unity is key. And obviously we'll see that coming up. You know, if we don't want to be a divided country, why do we want to be divided in our workspace or in our school? I think that all you have to do is reach out, and don't be afraid to use your voice, no matter how many people tell you not to. You know, usually obstructionists are really loud. I wonder what it would feel like if we were louder than them when we're, you know, screaming out. Everyone's like, "I hate you," and you're like, "I love you." Now I'm trying to make this place better. Let's do that together. Let's try to drown out the negative.
Okay, we have one more here from social media, Christian Casanova. As ICE continues to separate families and children at the border, cities, families' homes, and at my own school in California, how can I protect my students and their families? How can the University of Michigan community support and stand by our Latin community here?
I just think it should be an open conversation. We should educate ourselves and our students about what is going on right now and motivate our students if we do want to see change. It's not time to retreat, it's time to participate, right? We have upcoming elections, November 6th. I know I keep talking about that, but I am, it is right now the only way that we can try to change the way things are. People ask me all the time, what can we do about immigration in this country? Well, first, we should try passing a bill of immigration reform. We have not tried to reform the immigration system. It is obviously not working. Obviously, we do not want, people ask me all the time, is that what you want is open borders? Who the hell wants open borders? Of course not. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that we need a system that works. And so right now the system isn't working. So we need to reach some sort of comprehensive immigration reform. Now, how do we do that? We do that with a House and Senate that actually cares about this issue. Because if they really care about protection and protecting US borders, then this will be an issue that would be taken very seriously. But it's not. Deporting 11 million people isn't going to work. It's not going to be good for our economy. It's impossible, basically. So get that out of your minds. That's not going to work. Where was the question?
I think you answered it and then some.
All right.
Do I have time for one more question? Okay. Let me close with this. I know that you have visited your parents' homeland a number of times now, right?
Yes.
If you could, I'd like you to talk a little bit about Colombian culture and then what that culture brings to the United States of America. Or to put that another way, what do we lose in America if we don't have all of these diverse communities, including Colombian American communities?
You lose all your food. You won't be able to eat a damn thing. That's what you will lose. Kidding. I'm sure all of you are doing your own farming. I'm certainly not. So growing up with my family was really interesting, even though my parents desperately wanted to be American, but were so like, because we lived in a neighborhood where we just kind of interacted with other immigrant families, so that was, their culture was really embedded in me, in my heart, my mind. We're a very happy people, very emotional. Oh my God, cry for everything. But I grew up with my heart on my sleeve, and we are a community that helps each other. So going to visit my family is really interesting. The first time I went to visit my family, of course, I told my mother not to fuss. She brought in an entire mariachi band to the airport, and here's the thing, we're not even Mexican, so I don't even know where she got a mariachi band. So that was really, and flowers and balloons and basically the entire neighborhood. I didn't know any of these people, but they all went to greet me at the airport. I love how much time these people actually had. I go to work. But that's sort of, there's a lot of love there, and a lot of people sharing what they have, even though what they have is very little. And so I learned that I want to share what I have. And everything that I do, I will benefit way more if I am thinking about my community when I do it. And that's the way I want to live. I want to live by sharing what I have. That is through my experiences, through my storytelling, through what I know. I know that I was very much affected by family separation. And that is, and we think that family separation only means a separation at the border or deportation, but it also means mass incarceration. It also means being separated through that. And so that is happening to our families at a scary, scary rate, and it always has been. I think this is the time to see that family separation is so many things, and that's why it affects all of us. We want better communities, we want an educated population. So I think that when we start thinking about others, I think that we will benefit in the long run, and that's what I learned from being in Colombia and being around my family. Because if they don't help each other, there's no way that they can survive.
God bless America.
God bless America.
And thank you very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Diane Guerrero.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So we have one more treat for you. So don't leave. We have one more treat for you, but please join me again in thanking Diane Guerrero and Leonard Pitts Jr. for their wonderful exchange.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You're back. Okay, so to highlight the diversity of our student body, our closing student performance is by Yani Kibat, or YKB. Founded in 2007, the YKB student organization was created at the university to represent the voices of women of color. While the organization was originated for South Asian identifying women, the group has expanded their members and speakers to all women of color. The group is committed to inclusivity, self-growth, and solidarity. Performing How to Give Advice, please welcome Yani Kibat.
Maybe if you smiled more, you'd be hotter.
Maybe you shouldn't speak so loudly. People could get the wrong idea. Yeah, maybe this is just a phase.
Maybe if you weren't so angry all the time about social justice, people would listen to you more. Maybe you shouldn't let political opinions affect personal friendships.
Okay, if I had a penny for every time someone I don't know critiqued me about the way I talked, felt, behaved, or dressed, I could probably buy Taco Bell every day for a year.
If I had a penny for every time someone I do know critiqued me about the way I talked, felt, behaved, or dressed, I could probably buy all of you Taco Bell every day for 5 years.
No, listen, if I had a penny for every time I critiqued myself about the way I talked, felt, behaved, or dressed, I could buy everyone at this university Taco Bell every day for 10 years.
But everyone seems to think I could save all that money and not buy Taco Bell, no matter how much I want it, with these two magical words.
Be confident.
Thank you so much.
You have changed my life forever!
Before this life-changing moment, I had never heard that one before.
What a fucking epiphany! But here's the thing.
Did I ask? Be confident! It's so simple. Such a genius thought and obviously so easy to do. It's not like...
My parents told me the only way for me to succeed is to be quiet, keep my head down, and not make waves.
It's not like my community has never told me, you're just a girl. What do you know?
It's not like my professors have ever spoken over me in class about my own experiences and culture.
It's not like I've been told by my peers that I didn't deserve to be in my program.
It's not like I've been surrounded by people who don't look like me for most of my life.
It's not like I've told myself this multiple times each day. Be confident.
But hey, can I tell you all a little secret?
It doesn't fucking work like that. Confidence only works when you have some sense of self, when you haven't been conditioned to analyze everything you do or say, So you don't seem
too whiny,
too aggressive,
too passive,
too stupid,
too smart,
too vain,
too unsure,
too bossy,
too quiet,
too loud,
too emotional,
too cold,
too much, or not enough.
Confidence isn't a one-size-fits-all solution to my problems, especially when your idea of confidence means containing my emotions and being more palatable.
Thanks for being the fairy godmother I didn't ask for.
Maybe next time, just shut up and listen. You have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason.
Maybe next time, instead of offering advice, hear me out and try to relate to me instead.
Maybe next time you try to give someone advice they didn't ask for, do me a favor.
And just
hush.
Thank you, Yanni Kibad, for reminding us through your performance about the importance of listening in advancing the principles of diversity, equity, and inclusion. I hope you will all agree that this morning's program was an exciting way to kick off our 2018 Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Summit Week. Just a few reminders and notes for you all. So please complete a comment card available on your way out or online by going to diversity.umich.edu, and the details are in your program. You can also continue to enjoy the visual collage, as you saw when you were coming in, of all the wonderful happenings on campus in year 2. And Literati Bookstore is selling books by Diane Guerrero and Leonard Pitts Jr. in the atrium. And as you may have heard, the University of Michigan is participating in the Big Ten Voting Challenge. So to prepare, absolutely. So to prepare for our next election on November 6th, you will have until tomorrow, October 9th, by 5 p.m. to register to vote. You can register to vote on campus today by visiting the Secretary of State's mobile branch office located in the Horseshoe Drive of the Michigan League today from 10 to 4 p.m. or online at umich.turbovote.org, umich.turbovote.org. In addition to our Year 2 progress report, now available online at diversity.umich.edu, we also created a short digital report specifically for students, and that will go out to the community in a blast in the next coming days. And in both the central report as well as that short report, we have showcased many of the wonderful unit-based activities that have happened, so please review those. And finally, please visit our summit calendar online to take advantage of the wealth of events and activities happening this week and beyond. And our web address is in your program as well. So thank you for your attendance and attention. Have a great day, and forever go blue.